Alright, today we're going to put a couple of upper control arms in this Mazda ute. First of all, we're going to take the caps off. Get the right socket. Right impactor. Got a lot of weight in this. Might just grab the jack this up a little bit more. Alright, the next step we're going to do is we're going to have to remove this cotter pin because I've got these new control arms to put in it. The reason why I've got these new ones is that these bushers in here, they've got to be pressed in and out. They cost something like $60, or depends where you got them from. The price varies. And my lower ball joints here aren't much good either, they're split. So that's why I've got the new control arm. And as I'm by looking at it from my way, looks like it's the right one. We'll see that to the side. I need to get this cotter pin out. So if I can give me see that cotter pin. Does not look very good, that cotter pin either. It's like it's busted. Someone's already been stuffing around with it. I see it's got a hook on it. Bloody thing. I might have to cut that off because that hook's going to affect it. I'll be able to cut it. These pliers. Yep. And then we'll just pull that out. Just like that. And what I need to do next is get the right socket and undo this nut because we need to get the ball joint out. So we need to undo this. Hopefully that will just tap out. I'll get the right socket. 17 on this. It's a 19 on another. It's weird. This should come out pretty easy. Try not to damage nothing. We don't damage anything here. Alright, I got the nut off. Set that up there. got it up a bit of the way. Still not up fully though. I've got it supported too. It's probably why. But what I'll do is I'll undo that. So I'll undo these because I've never got it out, so it's not going to matter. That's at 12. And that will take all the pressure off it, and this will allow it to flop around. But before you go undoing this sort of stuff, make sure that you try and get this moving first, because once you've got this ball joint out unattached from this plate, you're going to have a bit of a problem. And be careful it doesn't fly up this, because this is still under pressure. See how it wants to move up. Look at that, so just be very careful here. Shouldn't be under much pressure because I've got the jack stand here supporting it on the caliper, but still it could still fly up a bit. So just make sure you be very careful with your hands, don't put them anywhere. Don't hurt yourself. See there, I've got it almost propped up in a good spot. That it wasn't hardly any. Look at that, just pull straight here. That's what you want. Try not to lose all this crap. So when you're stuffing around with it, because I'm going to reuse these bolts. I don't like the bolts that come in the other one. They don't look like they're going to be high tensile for my likings. This is actually the reason why I'm changing this. Is that the boot's actually split. This guy here, right next to the where have I got it? You've got just enough room with the ratchet to get this out. Get my hand on that. Yep. As you can see, I've almost got it wound out. Once I do that, it brings back and I'll show you how to get that next one out. Alright, this is the next one, where the next one is. You've got to climb it. Make sure you got your jack and a jack stand on there. Don't ever go getting underneath the wheel off it without that. The next one, you've got to get your ratchet. I'm on it there. Don't see how much room I've got with the ratchet. Whoops, slipped off again. And that's how you get that one. And once I've done that, I'll bring this back. Alright, got the bolt out. Get this bloody thing out of here. shim that goes in behind it, in behind this, not actually where the bolt is, but in behind that hole there. Make sure you put that shim back in the same spot. What I'll do is I'll leave that shim down there because that comes from the left hand side bolt. Alright. Now we've got our other control arm here, so let's see if it fits. Looks the same. Just grab your bolt, put in that one. Hole's a little bit bigger. In this one compared to this one. I want to have a look at this old rings back. Alright, I had them other control arms, what you're seeing, I had to return them. They sent me the wrong ones after 2006 up to 2012. This model of ute is a 2005, so we've got the right control arms here. These are the same control arms. This is a V6 4-litre Mazda Bravo ute. These are the same control arms for Courier and Mazda Bravo. And that shim, I was going to show you, this is the right hand side. We're doing the driver's side. As you can see, it's got right on there. And it's got R on there. And how this shim's for the wheel alignment. So after you've done this, the ute's got to go for a wheel alignment to get the correct. So what the shim does is that sits in there, and the shim sits in there like that. That's how the shim, it's only on the back of it, on this bolt hole here. The shim sits in behind that, and it sits in there, and you put the bolt in the back of it and do it up. That's how you put the shim in. Rightio. I'm going to lift this control arm in. There. What you do is put the control arm in. It's a little bit of wriggle room. Just don't go force and nothing. Forgot to put the bolt in first. got something. Just at this first bolt, it's close to the oil filter. So just pays to stick that bolt in first, otherwise you won't be able to get it in. And of course, try and get the bolt started by hand. Just like that. And I've got to go and put the other bolt in, and I'll put the shim in last. I've got to put the shim in behind here, and after I do that I'll bring this back. Alright, put the bolts in the back of it, and the shim's there. That's where the shim sits. Try and get a good look on the camera. That's where the shim sits in. All I've got to do now is, what I'll do is I'll take this ball joint out, I'll put in this holder first, and I'll put this in. I'll do this first. The reason why I'll put the ball joint in first will be easier. Because I can jack the whole thing up and I'll get it in line in the top. It'll be easy to put 3 bolts in and try and get this in, especially when it's under a lot of pressure. So what we'll do is I'll take the actual ball joint out. I don't like these bolts anyway. I'm going to be putting the factory bolts in it. Nice big thick solid bolts are. These ones, I don't like them. They don't look like they're very strong. I mean, yeah, it's alright for the control arm, but the bolts, I'm pretty fussy when it comes to stuff like that. What I'll do is all the ball joint does is sitting there. Get myself a rag. What I'll do is, before I do anything, get the whole ball joint, just make sure that nut is the same size, mate. Yep. You don't want to go reusing shit like this when they've got splits in them. So you just disregard that garbage. You probably won't see me put this nut on. I'm not even going to tighten this down or anything yet. Only by hand anyway. This is right on here. And what I'll do is I'll tighten it up just a little bit, but I'll wait until I'll lift this whole arm in position. I've got to pull this out. So when I do that, I'll bring this back. I don't need 2 hands. This is a pretty big job. I need the jack and take my jack stand out of the way and everything. Alright, I've been fighting it a little bit. It's very tight. I had to lift this up as far as I could get it. The actual wheel itself, as well as trying to get the bolts in tow. Which I have to let this one out a little bit. All you got to do is line these up, but it's a bit tricky because I've got this ball joint here and it's all hooked up, and I'm trying to get this control out because it's new, it's so stiff, which is a real pain to do that. So I'll need two ends. Once I get them bolts in there, that's all you got to do. Put these 3 bolts in, put the wheel back on it, and the split pin in here. Got to tighten this up and put the split pin in it, and we'll do the other side in a minute once I do this. What I was doing is I'm just screwing these up by hand, because you can't force these. So you know what I mean, if they don't go in, you don't want to go force them, because you end up stripping that thread in the actual joints themselves. So you can't force anything when it comes to this sort of stuff. You end up stripping them. If they don't go in by hand, like doing them up like this, it's a big no-no. Don't go trying to put a ratchet on there and doing that. What I actually did, once I got this one started, I wound this bolt in first and it pulled the others up into position. It twisted the knuckle around, which was good. The reason why I didn't stick these in there is these things, they look like they're a bit short, and also I wouldn't trust these. Like chicken feed bolts, cheap shit. Alright, now let's got to put that split pin in it. 17mm bolt. Let's get the split pin, which I've got a few in the bag. I've got a whole container of them. Got the split pins here in the ball joint itself, and we've got to find that. Got to find this hole. See, there it is there. The hole's lined up. Let me see if I can get you a good look at that. I have to turn this upside down. See that hole, what you can see through the middle of that bolt? That's where you put your split pin. And what we're going to do is, it did come with split pins, but I'm going to try and put the biggest pin in it I've got. Got some big pins. Whoops. Drop that on the ground. Perfect. Just tap that. Should have put in that way. These are my bloody claws. I should have put the split pin in that way. I've got to turn the bloody thing on an angle so I can bend it over properly. Yeah, I know a lot of people do shit different, but I'm one of them ones that like to do shit different. Oh, stupid thing. Rightio. And now, all you got to do is bend it. Bend the pin around. Get a pair of pliers for the other side. I can probably turn this pin so it locks in there better, like that. I can just bend it one across and then the other one up like that. That's how I do my split pins. So they're in there like that. The bolt's in there tight. Just double check everything. Oops. Wrong socket. I've already tightened them ones up in there as tight as I could possibly get them. They're nice and tight. They stick out plenty of the way in the threads, as you can see in there. Got plenty of thread poking through. Rightio, this side's done. I'll get it off the jack. I've got to do the other side. I'll put the tyre on. Righto, that's it. Put the wheel nuts on. And got to do the other side. That one's a little bit tight, that one. Just grab that rattle gun. As you can see, I went to put the rattle gun on that one, it got a bit tight. That's why you got to be careful with it when you do that. Don't go. That's what I don't like about them rattle guns that much. This one here it was. And what I normally do after that is I'll just spin the wheel first and I'll get me ratchet, body, bloody socket's wrong way, and I'll just quickly go in there by hand. Just like that, and I'll sit the wheel down, I'll go and get a big breaker bar and I'll do that, but I'll do the other side first before I hit the breaker bar. So I'll drop this on the ground. Let's get the other side done. I've got one done. Alright, let's do this side. Got it jacked up. These cordless impactors, they make it very handy if you're working in a shop or something. Most tyre shops and stuff, they have that sort of stuff. It's a Makita 18 volt, that's the number of it, if you're interested in this thing. Makita 18 volt BTW 450 impactor. You've got to be very careful if you're using on smaller bolts. Just a warning, strip them. You might necessarily strip the bolt, you end up stripping the thread. Or even worse, snap it off in there. So I'll take the tyre off it. Alright. Now this one's got a shim in here, in the top. That one had it on the other side down here, on the bottom. So I'll get a jack and I'll support this up first and then I'll bring this back. And for people want to know, the reason how I know that this ute had bad upper control arms is that I changed the tyres from the front to the rear and the tyres were worn on the insides of them. And when you pushed on that other control arm on the other side, it's all broken away from the rubber and you could actually push the wheel and you could hear it, you know, flopping away. So when you push on the tyre at the top, even when it was on the ground sitting, that's why, how I knew. And because the back tyres were wearing, I went and got a wheel alignment. I was going to get a wheel alignment done, and they told me I couldn't do a wheel alignment on it. And they said up control arms and stuff. So that's how I knew about them. So if anyone wants to know what are the symptoms and that, just look for bad tyre wear. Bad tyre wear first. The good thing is though, is the tyre, always keep an eye on the tyres anyway. I'm not the one that person that just gets tyres on your car and drives it until something happens. I'm always checking components and stuff all the time on the vehicle. They're a prick of a thing to get these kind of pins out. Split pins, whatever you want to call them. Real prick. Alright. Grab my tools. First things first is I've got to undo this. Whoops. Undo this and make sure you always jack up your vehicle properly in that when you're climbing under it. Use jack stands. Just be very careful, because you know, getting under a vehicle, especially jacked up like this, and you need to support the wheel too. Like this, I'll get you so you can see properly. I've got it supporting on the disc, because if this doesn't get supported, this is going to drop the control arm down and could do damage to the joints and everything. So you've got to support it, because it's got CV joints in the front. This is the 4-wheel drive model. Right, I'll get a hammer and I'll give this a tap and we'll see if we can get this ball joint. Hopefully you can all see that. Now we've got it loosened up, we can undo these bolts. Just didn't want to take it out until I get the thing to lift out. Hopefully you can see that in there where it lifted out. Never ever go bashing underneath the thread or even putting that nut on, because that nut, this nutty, never go bashing this with a hammer or anything, because this will get bent over and it'll make a real mess of the thread and you will never get that back on there. So that's why you got to do it. You just hit this area here with a hammer and give this a bash too. It'll be alright hitting this. The upper control arm, the steel part, just don't go belting the ball joint. And watch it too, it doesn't fly out or anything like that with your hands. And you've got to do the same procedure when you go to put this back in. Got to jack it up, play around with it and get this line back up. Nothing's easy with these. It's got a bit of pressure behind it too. On the control arm itself. Whoops. Where the bloody hell that gone? There it is, stuck in here. Don't go losing your bolts or anything. I jack this side up a little bit higher than the other side, because I found that if I do that, when I go to take this out and prise it, whoops, see what I mean by the pressure of it? Hopefully I caught that in camera. What I was saying is, I jacked it up on this side, jacked it up. You can actually move this in and out. It's got a bit of pressure on it now though. Let's take that out, because I've got it here on the thing. I'm going to fix that up in a minute. I'm going to lower that because it's up a little bit high. It's putting a bit of pressure on it, so I'll fix that up. Alright, now I've got the wheel, so it's got all the pressure off it. I can move that around. That's what's wrong with them. side to side movement, wobbling around. So I just got to get them 2 bolts here, and we'll get that out. Let's get that done, and I'll bring this back once I get them 2 bolts out. We'll get this out in the ground. I tell you what, these bolts here are easy to undo once you've cracked them, because you can get your hand through here. There's nothing in the way. But when you've got to get I had to use a ring spanner and put it on there, poke it through there, go underneath it and poke my hand up through the exhaust and the frame. I tell you what a nightmare that was. I didn't think I was going to be able to get it. I need shims to drop down. Got to get that shim out. Set that piece of trash down the ground. I've got to get this shim that fell down. Right, there's a plate in a shim behind here. Maybe the plate was stuck on the other side. There's only one shim. There's a plate and shim on this side though. I'm sure that goes in there exactly how it come out. So we'll sit that down on the ground there, next to the bolt. It's got to go back in there like that. Righto. I want to get this other control arm, what I've got over here, and put in here. And once I get it bolted up, it's the same as the other side. I'll film bits of it. I just got to get it in here first. It's just a bit hard to. It's a bit hard. Oh, that was just a ball joint protector. It's a bit hard to film and do all this stuff with one hand. Right, I'll put the bolt. It's easy to get the bolts in. Show you. You can put that. Yeah, you can slide that shim in after the bolts. That won't matter. I'll show you how easy it is to put the bolts in on the left side controller. And that's it. Put the next one in. That's my battery cable there. Of course you got to line it up. Once I do that, and I've got to put this shim in, I need 2 hands for that. And yeah, I'll get this bolted back up. This shimmy, now all you have to do is you just slide the shim in where the 2 bolts are in the actual control arm here. What have I done here? I think I've yeah, like that. Once I do that, we'll do the ball joint, put the wheel back on, and we'll be finished. Alright, same as the other side, I've just done them up. Just torque them bolts up behind the back. And take this new ball joint out. It's a little bit stuck in there, that. We don't want to use them nuts. I've got these ones here that I'm going to use. The ones that come out of the whole ball joint. On the side here. So we're not going to reuse them. Take that out. Now we've got to, I haven't got much weight on this at the moment. Make sure the top of that's clean. Just wipe that with your finger. Right, put this new ball joint up. I've got to get the jack and jack this up, and then I've got to show you. I've got to force this down and put a bolt in it while I lift this up and while I bring this out. It's a real pain in the ass, this job. But before I do that, we're going to make sure we tighten this ball joint up. We've got a bloody helicopter flying around. That's what's in the background. And what I'll do is I'll just tighten this up, this lower ball joint. I don't know if that's stiff. I'll tighten that down, and then I'm going to jack this up, and then I'm going to put the 3 bolts in, and then we'll retension or retorque the nut and the ball joint. And when I do that, I'll bring this back. I'll show you how to pull it together. Alright, now I've been doing this shit the hard way, trying to get them bolts in, but just put a hammer in there, force this down. You have to get it in the right position though, and for fuck's sake, make sure you got your bolts in your hand first, because these are new. It's so awkward. So you really need to prise at one end. Try and get it started, but make sure you don't take the pressure off it, because it could end up damaging the thread if you haven't already got them in. So make sure you're keeping the pressure on. Keep the pressure on them at all times until you get them started like that. I was doing them the hard way. I was pushing 2 hands on here and trying to balance that. Then I realised I could have just stuck a hammer handle in there, because these are new. They're so stiff, they're not flopping around like the old ones. And just use your socket to pull it up. Don't go too hard on it. Hopefully. Just screw them in there like that. Make sure you torque them down properly with your ratchet. And don't just go by either. Don't just go, oh yeah, you look at it and say, oh it's good. Make sure you look under it. Make sure it's flush on the control arm itself. Which it is. I'm gonna make sure they're in there properly. Make sure they're seated. Right, now we know they're done up tight, and we've got the original bolts. We didn't put this shit in because this was just strip. I'd snap that off in there, I reckon. That was just shit, that. Right, we need to torque up this bolt here, under here. We need to get that. We need that 17mm socket. So we'll just torque up this one. And we've got to find that hole too for the cotter pin, so don't go too. Oh yeah, I see the bloody holes in Oh, doesn't that suck? The holes in the bloody holes facing straight through that way into the thing. Don't think it'll matter though. I should be able to get a cotter pin out. Bloody hell. Alright, I'll get one of them and I'll jam it in there. And yeah, should be able to put the wheel on and I should be done. Alright, I'll show you. I've got the cotter pin in properly. I just bent it round, which that was good. These are all torqued down. The bolts in here and the shims are back in properly. I'll just show you how I had it jacked up. That's how I've got it jacked up. So what we're going to do is, got to lower this back down. Re-put the jack back in the middle to support it. Right, she's got the weight on it now. Right. Move this shit out of the way. Right, at your own risk. This is dangerous. It's you know what I mean, you can get under here and undo the bolt or something and it collapses. So I do warn, do at your own risk, because this sort of shit is dangerous. And you know, the jacks, I've got a jack stand, a jack under it, and I mean, I had jerry rigged up a bit because my jack stands are arched. Pieces of shit are arched like this. There wasn't a flat top, so I had to sit in there on that. And yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. If you can do it yourself from home, just trying to save some people some money, help them out. I'll just pop this wheel on. It's only 6 wheel nuts, and I'll show you how to torque them up with a socket. I only just do them up till the wheel locks in there, and then I'll get the I'll tighten the nuts down by hand. I'll run them in with the impactor a bit, but I don't trust that because you don't know how much torque it does, and that doesn't suit me. I like to know if it's safe or not. So I'll bring this wheel over. Right now, so get the 6 wheel nuts. Always be careful your back in that, and always work safe. Don't go doing stupid things. Never go use an impactor to get these nuts well and truly started. Many people have seen wheel nuts here not long ago got damaged from a big air ham impact because people don't know how to use them. And what they did is they used a big air rattle gun, and they had the nut, and the nut was just sitting on there, and it wasn't threaded on there properly. It was cross threaded. And you know what them big air impactors are like, big air impact rattle guns like they got at garages and stuff. If they run the big air compressor, they're just like, you know, just hammering the shit on there of the nut, and you know, if you haven't got it on there straight, it's already damaged the thread, and that's what happened to it. So you know, just take that from me, and the person actually brought it round, see if I could fix it. I should have filmed it. I wish I did. Everyone had a good laugh about it. And I'll get me now I've tightened them up, I'll just run around there quickly by hand once just before I lower the wheel so it takes all the pressure off. Just what I'll do is I'll just get my ratchet by hand. I'll quickly just go around them all. I've got the socket, I have to get another socket off the impactor, and I'll just do that, then I'll go and get the big ratchet out in the bone. I'll show you how to torque them down. Alright, this is how I tighten up the wheel nut. Got myself, what I do is just put that on there and torque them down. That's how I torque them up, and that's how you do upper control arms on a Mazda Bravo or Ford Courier. Full drive. I was going to say too that I was originally going to replace the bushes in it, and they were 65-70 bucks I think for the bushes. Then I had to go and pay someone to press them in, and also this boot here is split. You can't see it in this one, but this ball joint split. That's rubbish too. And it was going to cost about 65 bucks or something like that for the control arms and bushes. The control arms are $160 for repair, and the ball joints, if I'd have just done the bushes, it'd be 60 bucks, and I'll probably have to pay someone $120 to press them in. Plus, all that to buy these would have been another $60, so the job would have cost me about $260, and I'm still up for $100 for a wheel line it now, or $80 or whatever it is, $80 or something like that, $80, $90, I'm not real sure, whatever they feel like to charge. But now I've done the control arms, that's done, and I'll just torque these wheel nuts down with that big ratchet that I've got. And yeah, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. Please like and please subscribe too. And yeah, if you like this sort of stuff, and yeah, you'll see a lot more of it. Thanks for watching, and yeah, have a good one.